Lou, I want a word with you here.
Sure.
About those sit-ups you want me to do? I got it right here in my contract. Says I don't have to do any calisthenics I don't feel are necessary. So what do you think about that?
Just a bit outside.
And we get started with this week 3 episode by bringing in my partner, the co-host, the man that you can't get enough of. And I can attest he is here tonight. Please welcome in the one, the only, Justin Deering. Justin, how are you tonight?
Good, Travis. You forgot to unmute yourself during your very energetic open, so no one heard anything until you pulled yourself up on camera, but I bet it was awesome.
I did unmute myself.
No, it didn't come through, but it's all good because we're live on YouTube tonight, Travis. This is a first for us. I brought out a special shirt from a softball team that Phil Brown probably remembers, the Mighty Merkins. Played in the Grapevine Softball League together, but it's been a good week, Travis. A lot of work, and then heading into another week of board meetings. I'm glad we're doing this tonight because tomorrow's board meeting won't end till 2 a.m.
Well, week 3 is wrapped up. Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball, 2 more games. 6 games deep into this 2020 sprint, Justin. We are just about halfway through right. I guess we're going to hit the halfway point this week with 14 games here in 2020. And we got a big story coming up. We've got a guest coming up, the owner, the general manager, the man of the hour, the one who pulled off the Mike Trout trade himself, the owner of Ebony and Ivory, Zach Hawley, will join us just a little bit in this episode. But first, we have a first pitch.
Dr. Anthony Fauci. And his first pitch was not great. Just a bit outside.
Travis, as you know, the last 4 months has been 5 months now, 6 months even, depending on when your state started COVID, has been tough because schools have been canceled, but we're getting close to back to school. And schools are starting back up across Texas, across Oklahoma. Your kids started this week, I believe.
That's
in
correct.
person, teachers in a classroom, wearing masks, I think.
Yeah.
We start up in 2 weeks. This week, I received a text message from my brother, who's a police officer in the next city over from where I work, and said, I hope you're ready for school to start, but I saw this article and immediately thought of you. I will just read the title of this article and tell you how, and this should just give you an inside look into what my life has been like for the last month. Mississippi is what a school reopening shit show looks like. That's an actual title of an actual article you can find on msn.com. And the reason I bring this up is because my phone, I have typed that word, S show, so many times into my phone over the last 5.5 months that my phone now autocorrects such, shut, and sit to S show. So, Travis, this story basically talks about how the schools opened and within 2 days they had to send 120 kids home because they had to quarantine. So, it's not a very uplifting and funny opening pitch other than the fact that I'm just a little stressed out, but I love you.
Question. Yeah. Why did you think of me in this?
Because you had COVID. You had it.
All right. I did, but I was just trying to figure out why S show you think.
I think I sent that to you in a text message a few times this week, but that's during the big story. I'm just kidding. No,
all
it's
right.
not.
As always,
we're all good.
Justin,
good luck to everybody going back to school.
Good luck not getting COVID. I suggest staying away from that thing. Ugh.
Yeah. Though your jawline is looking more chiseled now that you have had the COVID.
I did. I lost some weight during COVID. All right, let's bring him in. Well, joining us here in the Week 3 episode, just a bit outside, as I mentioned, Zach Hawley, the owner and general manager of Ebony and Ivory. Zach Hawley, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
You should be doing pretty well this week. It looks like you're going to wrap things up 2-0 against the Van Buren boys and the boyhood rivalry of Chris Dockhill. How do you feel about this this young 3-week, 6-game season so far from your standpoint?
Man, from a fantasy baseball perspective, I would root for a pandemic every single year.
Wow.
I mean,
would you root for the commish to be stuck with it in bed for a week? Because I would.
That's true. My parents actually just got COVID. My parents
Oh.
just got it, both of them.
Oh,
Ouch.
They're okay, though. They're good. I didn't mean to bring this down really quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Zach, when I look up and down this roster, I think I said it last week on the show that it was a little surprising at times, but now that I look at it more, the further we get into it, you've got a lot of people producing. But I just want to say, like, your hit on Christian Vasquez really pisses me off. because catching is such a tough thing to find, and he came out of nowhere. So that great waiver wire pickup there. And then just, the Jack Flaherty trade you pulled off last year. And then obviously the trade we'll talk about here in a second from this week. I think definitely you've sealed yourself as the team to beat this year. And I think your trades you made this week sealed Luke to be the guy who doesn't win a game all year.
Wow.
You said that last week, Travis. Don't put that on me. You said that last week. You said, Luke, you'll never win a game.
I think I was overreacting, to be fair, but go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think you won one, actually. But I think you won one this week.
Oh,
but
that's called
your evaluation of my roster in the preseason was probably even higher than I thought. To be honest with you, Kyle Seager doing what he's doing. I mean, I've been waiting on that for 4 years. I gave him 5 years, $6, and for 3 years he was horrible.
Yeah.
And now he's finally doing something. Flaherty hasn't even played. Flaherty has one start for me, but I'm getting crazy production out of guys that I thought were pretty good, but they're doing really, really good right now. And then my pitching has just been, the thing I liked about my trades with you guys even the Acuna trade to get Hader, I was just building my roster to where I was getting multiple guys that I thought could be really, really good if they all hit. And all of them really are hitting right now. And that's the thing that's just making me, and I'm getting lucky that we have two weeks every single time. And I've had an unbelievable run of points. So, it's really kind of a simple way of getting to 6-0, even though I'm not sure my team. I think my team is one of the 4 best teams. To be honest with you, I think there's 4 teams, and I think one of my teams is the 4 best teams, but we'll see how they keep on going.
I tell you, you're getting good Jose Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's making all the difference in the world, is it not? Jose Ramirez is on fire to start this 2020 season, and it doesn't hurt either that Charlie Blackmon and the Colorado Rockies are seemingly good. So, yeah, I think you're right. You assembled guys that have higher ceilings. If Jose Ramirez and Charlie Blackmon and others, now you've added Mike Trout to that, who we know is consistently in that high ceiling area. But if those guys are hitting, we're 3 weeks in, and I believe Ebony and Ivory's been the highest point gatherers all 3 weeks. Close to it.
They're about 60 points back.
We're not real big on research here on Just a Bit Outside. We go off memory. Yes, Justin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we go. Luke won a game this week, so obviously I hadn't done any show prep. We make really cool intro videos around here. That's about the extent of our show prep.
Yeah, that's true.
There it is. All right, well, let's get into this week 3 just a bit outside big story. A little too loud for Justin, I think.
We have a
Big story.
FYI, since we are doing live comments, or we are doing live on YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube, you can comment and we can show your comment on the screen. Chris says he just wants everybody to remember. Go ahead and throw that up there. He wants everybody to remember that Luke is number 2 in points this season.
Thank you, Chris. I'm so glad. I can't wait to mispronounce a name here in a moment and have that flash up on the screen as well. Yes, live. This just a bit out episode live on YouTube. Glad to have all 2 of you along for the ride. Big story, week 3, Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball, and yet again, this may sound like a broken record, trades. Trades are the big story in Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball. 6 trades have occurred in our league in week 3. It was another monster week in trades in our league, and the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. And this week's trades, as teams were looking for 2020, other teams looking beyond this season. Justin, let's start with you. 6 trades. Let me just start with the big pictures. We don't do a lot of research. We're just thinking, have we ever had a week, back-to-back weeks, where we've had more trades than the previous week? Have we seen this many trades in a 2-week span before?
I do not think we have, and I was under the impression that the big story this week was going to be that the live scoring option of having 2 options was gone, because I'm having trouble figuring out who won games with this beta system they have going on Fantrax. It's absolutely terrible. But no, I don't think we've had 2 weeks that we've had trades where it increased the second week. Usually we go a huge week and then it kind of lays low for a little bit, but I think that's just the makeup of a 60-game sprint that we've got going, is that the separation that usually takes 8 to 10 weeks in our league to really happen is happening in week 3. And like Zach said, I agree. I think there's 4 or 5 teams that are truly pushing for a playoff position this year. I think some moves this week solidified those 4 teams, and that 5th team kind of solidified being the 5th team. And then other trades happened, and that shifted up even more. But I think that you're seeing what it looks like to compress an entire season into 7 weeks, or whatever the total week number is, as we get ready for the playoffs, as they're here in a month. So I think that it's intense. I will tell you, I was involved in that talk that day, going for Trout. I had put up an offer. I liked my offer. I get it. It's all good. I was a little bitter, a little pissed for a little bit, but I got over it. Ate a lot of ice cream this week. Watched a lot of New Girl on Netflix. I'm over it. I'm good. I went out and made moves to respond to that move. It wasn't Trout, but it was what I think helps my team.
Let's start.
Go ahead.
Let's start there. The greatest baseball player on the planet was traded. Clearly, if Luke was not in contention, this was the plan for Luke all along. At $32 in a 1-year contract, Mike Trout is undoubtedly hitting the free agent market in 2021. Luke trades him ultimately to Ebony and Ivory in a monster deal. An absolute monster deal. I don't recall, Justin, a deal this big or this monumental in our league's history, and I think Mike Trout has a lot to do with it. Royal Ruckus traded away Mike Trout, Jose Altuve, and Mike Clevenger for a slew of players from Ebony and Ivory, including Whit Merrifield and Salvador Perez. And Zach, we got you here. You won the Trout sweepstakes. One, how does it feel to have Mike Trout on your roster in a 2020 playoff push? But more than that, give us a little insight. What was the thinking of kind of going all in with Mike Trout? I'm going to guess you may regret Jose Altuve, but we can talk about that next as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thought process, honestly, I got a text from Luke saying, I have Trout's on the block. I have a trade offer of 5 high-level prospects. Do you want in on this? And I said, well, I only have what I would probably consider 3 or 4 of my best prospects. I said, are you wanting just prospects or do you want actual major leaguers? And he said, I just want controllable pieces. And I said, okay. So at that point, I knew that I probably would win it if I put those 2 guys in, Merrifield and Salvador, just because. And that's the thing that's funny, Justin, is I can see how you'd be bitter, but I'm the only one that had the 2 best players on his favorite team. And what I would consider Merrifield, I struggled with that decision, mainly because the risk that I'm taking with this season potentially being closed down at any point to get rid of Merrifield is really the thing that I kind of wrestled with for as long as I did until I actually made the move. And then I thought, hey, I'm 4-0 right now. I have a really good team. What's the point of doing this if I don't have the ability to get the best player and to have him and to really give myself a shot to go up against Chris, to go up against you, to go up against Lan, and whoever potentially else could be in there? I might as well do it. So I basically said, here's my 2 best Royals, which you love. And right away he texted back, away to my heart. So, I knew I was pretty close. I just didn't know if anybody else would be able to give that. And I just, from a defendant standpoint, I think that Merrifield's contract, I think he got an awesome piece in that.
Oh, I agree. And I think when he told me, hey, it's been great, like the response back was, hey, this is fun talking, but I'm going to go in a different direction. I didn't even know you were the other person. Honestly, I thought it was Chris. Yeah. And then I just clicked and looked at your roster and I wrote back to him and I said, is Whit Merrifield coming home? That was my response to him. And he said, yes. And Salvi. And I was like, okay, it's all, it is what it is. Yeah. And again, it was an all-day thing. I get started early that morning. I guess it went mid-afternoon. I'm sure he was just getting blown up left and right from all angles because I know of at least 4 or 5 people in the league that reached out because 3 or 4 of them reached out to me and said, hey, are you trying to get in? I'm like, who am I? I always try to get in. And then you won. I didn't know you were in, so that was the 5th person. So, it sucked to lose, but I think in the long run, I think it's something we've said. Travis has said every time we come on here and there's big trades that happen. If you're going all in, go all in. There's nothing wrong with going all in to win it, even on a 60-game season. I had thrown a lot of names in there as well. So I think, that's the fun of it. Yes, I will openly admit that there was anger a little bit just because I lost, but also just because I was pissy. And in my defense, I just gotten out of a 12-hour board meeting. Because Travis said, is this board meeting or baseball? I said, maybe more board meeting.
Well, it opened up the thought process of, and I understand it. The money is that issue is, I don't know if we need to address it as a league, but if we want to try and get our trades to actually mirror what our rosters are, and there's basically, you can't take on more money than you actually have. I understand that too, because it does become kind of ridiculous from that perspective. I do understand that, but I also know that that's the way that Luke's going to trade Mike Trout for the best package ever. If he has to fit $32 in, it's going to be tougher for him to get a better package, in my opinion, too. So
there was no anger on my end on the money because he was paying for Altuve in our deal, so he was paying for both of them. He was paying for $42 on my side.
Yeah, so $32 goes into that trade as well. Essentially, it's a Royal Ruckus sent you Ebony and Ivory $32 to make that trade complete, and that's just a commissioner's office thing. That amount of money we're talking about, we've never seen in this league before. But you're right. On a 1 year, you rented Mike Trout, right? And you did. You gave up some significant pieces to get that piece, and we will never, at least personally, I will never be upset for any team going all in this deal at any point, because bobbleheads are way cooler than prospects. And
you should make that into a shirt.
It would be a great shirt.
It would be.
With our Harry Doyle logo on it. Ooh,
well, I think we got a shirt. Last time I tried to do shirts, no one wanted them. No one bought them.
All right, well, let's do
Justin,
a rundown. Let's look at some of these other trades. Let's get into some different ones. You want me to run down them since you were involved in quite a few of them, Travis?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so let's start with I got to pull the screen up because it just crashed. There we go. Let's start with that one between you and me. Let's talk about the Robinson, Chirino, Conforto, J.J. Bleday, Zach Britton, all for Zach Gallen. When you look at that trade, Travis, this was a move in response, honestly, to the trades that had happened earlier already in the week. For me, it was just to kind of solidify more things. But yet I did have to give up somebody who I told you was probably a 5-year guy on my team. If we're going to be transparent on this show, you have been talking about Zach Gallen since the first pitch of opening day with me.
Probably
what is
even
it about
before that.
Yeah, I think it actually was. What is it about Zach Gallen that made you make this move and jump in like this?
Well, I think Zach Gallen is one of those potential, top 25 fantasy baseball players, and he's a starting pitcher. And you don't see that combination. And I said potential. I get it. There's a ceiling there. But if you're Aiken's Army for the first time ever, trying to rebuild and retool for the future, having guys like that on my roster, at least in my view, is not a bad thing. And I've wanted Zach Gallen for a while. And that trade in particular, which was the second to last one, number 5 of the week, was a way that in the last 2 weeks, Aiken's Army has reshaped their entire starting rotation. Kyle Hendricks earlier, Zach Gallen, and Dustin May, $5 total. And all 3 of those guys are high ceiling, high potential. Zach, you mentioned earlier, going back to last season, how you traded off some pretty big pieces, but you gained a lot more pieces to start building a roster around. And it's essentially what Aiken's Army is trying to do here. Zach Gallen is a cornerstone piece, in my view, especially at the rookie contract level and the potential of keeping around for 5 or 6 years if he does pan out to be a top 25 guy. So, and look, I gave up essentially to a waiver wire, expiring contract, and one of old Blake's prospects for this. And I gained a starting pitcher that I didn't have before.
Right, and then we talked. That day was a long day for me and you because it started early and it ended late and it was a sticking point was on Conforto. But basically, looking at his season, he's really been slapping the goat. So it's like he needs to be in my starting lineup. He needs to be playing. And so I'm glad we got it to work out. It obviously had to take on Robinson Chirinos. I think that was the breaker there that had to get me.
Yes.
To get me Conforto was that take on Robinson Chirinos there.
I asked you to take him on because I was tired of taking on bad contracts.
And then the bad thing was, like, the minute we finalized, they put him on the IL, and you were like, hold up a second. Maybe I'll just hold on to him for a second. Maybe I'll hold on to him. But I think if we're going to talk all the trades, Zach's trade was obviously huge for his team, but quietly, I think Land made 2 moves this week that solidified him into that top tier. Quietly, and by quietly, I mean doesn't interact on the text message. That's what I mean by quietly with Land. He made a couple moves this week to really solidify his team, sending Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker, and Kevin Biggio to Blake for Bryce Harper. Blake's pony he signed in offseason, I guess, this year that he was going to build around has now moved. And then, Blake, then he turning around, making the trade with you that got him Kyle Hendricks, got you Kyle Hendricks, got him Dylan Bundy, one of the hottest pitchers, and Brandon Workman. Quietly, I think Land is solidifying himself in that top 4. I thought before those moves, Blake was potentially had the team to be in the top 4. And he asked me what I thought. I said, I don't like him. I think you just made Land the 4th best team and made you the 5th best team. And it was very blunt with that one. And he didn't like it too much. And we're still friends, though. Luckily, we're still friends, I think. He's probably going to say I'm an ass in the comments, but, whatever. So I just think it was a big week.
It was a huge week. And let's think about this for a second as we start to wrap up trade talk. Big story, week 3, just a bit outside. Mike Trout, clearly the big story. Bryce Harper was traded this week, and that just got buried. Think about that. Bryce Harper got traded. Zach, I'd love to get your 2 cents on both Bolding Beavers moves just in general. Bolding Beavers pick up Bryce Harper again for the next 4 years, by the way, 4 or 5 years, whatever that deal is. He picks up Dylan Bundy and Brandon Workman just to solidify depth in the pitching staff there. But Zach, what's your take on Bolding Beavers' moves this week?
To me, and this might sound weird, but he might be the scariest in a 1 week playoff situation. Facing him could be the scariest team to face. Just that staff is just crazy. And if you had to get Cole and Scherzer and Bieber, and now you add Dylan Bundy I love those moves. Those are the type of moves that, in my opinion, in this league, after you make I think the people that have success in our league, you are able to evaluate your team and figure out where you are really quickly, and then go and make those moves to actually get better. Or you understand that, hey, I might be okay, but I'm not going to win this thing, so I'm actually going to get pieces for the future. And in my opinion, this is perfect for Lane. He had to get his offense is. If Yelich isn't going to do, unless he gets hot, he's leaning on Yastrzemski, who was doing awesome.
That's an incredible pickup.
He has great names. They just haven't really done very much yet from a hitting perspective. But getting Harper there, it's just going to make him, like I said before, he's definitely solidified in there as one of those top 4. And I think possibly the scariest, just because of that staff, that if you get them on 2 starts, you could be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Week 3 in the books, Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball. Let's just run down this very quickly. At the top of the show, whether you could hear it or not, rich got richer and the poor got poorer. And week 3, as we are now 6 games deep in this 2020 sprint, the undefeated Ebony and Ivory sit atop Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball, 6-0. And we will talk at the end of this episode. If they're going to lose this week, we'll give those predictions as well. Wichita White Wolves find themselves in the loss column for the first time this season, going 1-1 in week 3, 5-1 on the season, tied with your Justin Los Tigres, 5-1 on the season. Pretty good record considering your week 1, I would assume. Bolding Beavers hitting that 4 spot at 4-2. And as Zach's evaluation, could be the scariest team to match up in a playoff there, holding that last playoff spot. Remember, the top 4 teams will make this year's 2-week playoff tournament. Van Buren Boys, Aikens Army, Beards of Glory sitting in 5, 6, and 7, censored by the commish. Now at 2 and 4. Extra 21s, Royal Ruckus take up the bottom of the league. That's week 3 and where everybody sits. You know what? We need a little baseball card break.
Baseball stuff!
Baseball stuff!
Cool!
This is the first week since I started this that I haven't bought any cards. I just sold cards. So,
making some dough.
I made some scratch. I made about $275 in the last 3 weeks selling these things. It's nuts that people will spend money for people who have never played in a baseball game in the major leagues. That JJ Bleday card that I showed you last week after your trade sold for $36 this week for some reason.
What? Are you kidding me?
I'm dead serious, man.
You got more from that card than I got from them in our trade.
Yeah. So this week, I just thought I'd bring in some big names people may recognize. We'll start with Shohei Ohtani. I hear he's on a new team. That's a prism or an optic. It's sparkly with his little picture down there. And then there's a bright.
Wait, go back to the Ohtani card. Does he have 2 arms?
No, he's hitting. Don't worry, because that's what he does. He doesn't pitch. He hits. And then we've got a Bryce Harper, just a base Bryce Harper card. And then finally, I think you know where we're going here. I'll bring in the Mike Trout. which is nuts because this is a base Mike Trout card that if I put Blake put 5 Mike Trout cards that you just pull in any pack and you get a lot of them, sold it for like $15 to $20 within 10 minutes. Like, it's stupid selling cards right now. So, see, I've got I'm sorry? Oh,
Unreal.
We're buying cards like we're just going to and buying packs and opening them like Luis Robert. This card sells for $30. He's been playing for a week. Blake has one that sells for $80, but it didn't sell for that much. Michael Baez never played a game. Autograph sells for $25. Got to get it on eBay. Like, it's just you can't find cards anywhere right now because it's so hot. So next week, I promise I will have something. I just sold this Craig Biggio 2020 Topps card. It's a short print that's supposed to be someone else, but they put Craig Biggio on it. Sold it for some money. The question is, have I broken even yet? And the answer is absolutely not.
How does your wife feel about that?
That's one reason I haven't bought any cards this week. But I'm sitting on some Dirk Nowitzki cards for when he goes into the Hall of Fame that I will unload those the day after because it will sell big. Fernando Tatis rookie cards, the first 2 weeks, you saw the price of those on eBay double or triple. They were selling for $15 before the season started, going for up to $100, $150 after the season started because of his hot start. So, baseball stuff.
Baseball stuff.
Yeah.
Let's play a little fill in the blanks. Justin, can you hear the music?
I can, and I can hear you.
Wow. This technology is working out for us on a live Just a Bit Outside. Travis Akins, Justin Deering, Zach Hawley joining you. Week 3. This is this little fill-in, middle segment as we call it here on Just a Bit Outside. This week we're playing a little fill in the blank. Justin and I will give you a sentence, and Zach, join right along, but fill in the blank. Justin, how about I start?
Okay, hit me.
The Extra 21s, our newest owner in the league, Bobby, Dr. Bobby, is 0-6. Bobby has blank to look forward to.
The prospect draft. Now, I think
just prospects.
I think if you look at his team, I think he does have some pieces, depending on his plan, that he could move to get to load up. I think Anthony Rendon, if he's not planning on extending him, that contract's pretty nice. He's obviously started slow, but he's picked up recently. I think he's got a couple other players in there that he could move. You know, Paul Goldschmidt, he got him for 3 years. Is he worth 3 years? Maybe someone wants that. I don't know. But he's got some – I mean, he could make some moves to build for 2021. I think if you had him on the show like we did last week and asked him right now, hey, what's your plan for 2020? His plan is to make it through it and start building for next year.
Question, do you think if Bobby knew Anthony Rizzo could get him 5 prospects, he would have kept them?
Oh, 100%.
Why would he? He got a middle reliever. Why would he want 5 prospects? He got a Kenta Maeda.
Justin?
Oh, 100%. Zach, I want to ask you, if you look at the player rankings right now for all teams, currently Shane Bieber sits atop it with the most points in the league. When we finish this sprint and head into the playoffs, who will be the number one? Which team will he be on your team? Will the number one player in the league be an Ebony and Ivory or whatever you say your team name is?
Well, okay. So
I was unaware that I was supposed to prepare fill in the blank, so I'm making them up this week.
We talked about it.
You said, hey, do you want to do fill in the blank? Usually that means you give me something and I fill the blank in.
Yeah. Made the videos too.
Well, I'm just gonna say yes. Of course, I have Charlie Blackmon or Trout, so I'm gonna say I have a good chance, or even Ramirez. So I think I have a chance of having the number one guy.
Well, currently you have 3 out of the top 11, 2 out of the top 10, and as Travis says every season, the goal is to have 3 or 4 of those in the top 10 to 20, and your team has quite a few in there. So, I mean, if Shane Bieber keeps pitching the way he is it possible that a pitcher ends up as the top scorer because he's pitching every 5 days, but he's averaging 22 freaking points a game. So he's coming out at like 5.5 points a game if he was an offensive player, that would get you that top spot. So who knows?
Here's what I want to know is why did Shane Bieber not go on that dinner with Zach Plesac and Clevenger? Because both those guys
he's
are on my
right.
team. They're on my team and now are sent to an alternate site because they can't go to dinner. Bieber is sitting in this hotel room getting ready for his next start.
Their teammates didn't want those two guys back. They had a vote.
I know.
How bad is it when your teammates don't want you?
Yeah.
All right, how about this? Fill in the blank. Blank has happened to the Beards of Glory. They're on a 2-game losing streak, now sitting at 2-4. This isn't the same Beards of Glory of the last couple of seasons. Blank has happened to Colby's Beards of Glory, Justin.
Fat Pete Alonso.
I was going to say that right there. I was going to say him too.
Fat Pete Alonso has happened to Beards of Glory. If you saw the spring training picture of him floating around, not only did it make him look completely out of shape, but it gave half of the people in this league hope that you could make it into the major leagues. me included, because I'm a big old boy. Pete Alonso just doesn't look the same. He's striking out at a hellacious rate. And the polar bear looks like he's stocking up for winter to go into that deep sleep. Is that when polar bears sleep, or do they sleep in the summer? Whenever polar bears sleep, that's what he's doing. He's getting ready for it.
Zach?
Well, I mean, he took mine. When I looked at his roster, I was like, that's the thing that I would say is Pete Alonso. But he has a couple other fat guys. Miguel Sano kind of gets fat at times. Schwarber, I think Schwarber gets fat at times. He's kind of skinny fat, you know.
He's fake skinny, as I like to call it. Like you look like you're not fat, but you don't have any muscle.
Yeah, so he has quite a bit of. Quite a few fat dudes. That could be the issue.
All right, I got my fill in the blank.
All right.
Fill in the blank. Out of the top 4 teams currently in the standings, blank will not make the playoffs.
Oh. Oh. Ow. That's rough. Out of the top 4, I'm gonna go with the one that's in 4th place right now, just because they've got 2 losses already, and I'll say Bolding Beavers. But man, I would not put money on that one bit right now. But if I'm choosing one right now, at the end of week 3, Bolding Beavers, just because they have the most losses out of those 4 teams.
Yeah, that's my pick too, but only because of that.
I would fill in the blank with the long shot here, and really and the comments are gonna explode. Based on the injury week Chris has seen, I don't think any in the top 4 are gonna fall out. But the injury week, if it continues to build, Chris is the dark horse to fall out of the top 4 simply due to injuries.
You just want a
I don't
text
agree
message.
with it. But I'm just saying, and the comment will pop up. Feel free to shoot that thing right up on the screen for all of us to look at.
Once
Based
I
on
see
the
it,
Judge
going.
injury, if DeGrom stays, I know it's a 1-gamer they're talking about, but there's been multiple injuries with LeMahieu and other ones stacking up this week. Just got to be a little worried. If Chris is even still watching, we're 40 minutes into this train wreck of a show that I didn't prep for, and I apologize.
Train wreck? This is just get outside. Hey, let me one last one at least real quick on this, and let me flip it on you. Out of the 6 teams currently not in the playoffs, what's the one team that could be in that 4th spot?
Whew, none. No, okay. If I got to pick one, I'm going to go ahead and say that the team that has the roster to do it, if they click, is what we just talked about. What happened to Colby's team? Colby, if his team puts it together, Randy Dobnak's having he's as a rookie, I guess, or he's been looking pretty good. But if everybody would start clicking on that team, he could throw together a 6-game. He could win 3 weeks in a row and be in. I think we say this every year. What happens if the Van Buren boys start clicking and everything hits for them with the way they've constructed that roster, and that roster looks good? They're right there on the edge. It's going to come down to those last couple weeks and what those matchups look like. But if I have to pick one, I'm going to say Beards of Glory.
There we go. Chris Dockhill chiming in via YouTube Live, just a bit outside, broadcasting live on this Sunday night. Chris Dockhill, owner of Wichita White Wolves, already chiming in to instant feedback from Justin's hot take. DeGrom, Montas, and Judge are already coming back this week.
I forgot he was a doctor and had inside information on that, so whatever. Go ride your Peloton.
Fill in the blank. Week 4 is upon us, gentlemen, and as we mentioned already, we hit the halfway marker on this 14-game sprint that is 2020. We have tops. We have a bottom in this league already. Will things begin to change? It looks like this is going to be a very big week for some of those middle-tier teams. Van Buren boys, Beards of Glory. Can Aiken's Army pull a miracle with their waiver wire young building team? Can the guys at the bottom of this league, censored by the commish, Royal Ruckus, and will Bobby get his first win? This seems like this is going to be a big week for those kinds of moves, where we could potentially even see a setup. I might think to more trades before our Week 5 trade deadline. Let's run this down very quickly, and then let's get our quick Stone Cold Lock predictions of Week 4 in Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball. Aiken's Army going 2-0 this week against Royal Ruckus and censored by the commish. Land's Bolding Beavers looking for a strong week, needing a strong week to contend in that playoff positioning. Will take on Beards of Glory and Royal Ruckus in Week 4. Ebony and Ivory, the 6-0 undefeated Ebony and Ivory, Mike Trout led Ebony and Ivory will take on the 0-6 Extra 21s, and the big matchup right here against Justin's Los Tigres. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Game of the week right there. 2 playoff contending teams. Justin's Los Tigres will also take on the Van Buren boys, who go 2-0, by the way, in Week 3, looking to keep that winning streak alive in Week 4. Censored by the commish will take on Wichita White Wolves, and the Van Buren boys will also take on Chris's Wichita White Wolves, leaving Beards of Glory and Extra 21s to wrap up the Week 4 doubleheaders. Justin, Zach, do you see any other bigger games than your game coming up this week?
I don't.
I think all eyes are on that one, right? I mean,
but it is an incredibly huge, mid-season game, considering you have an undefeated team. All right, 6 games into the season, 6-0 Ebony and Ivory. Okay, there's a storyline. Can they keep it up? Can they go 2-0? Will they go 1-1 and see that? But both of your teams are right there in the thick of it for playoffs. Top team number 3 currently, but very easily all of that could be changed in a double header kind of week like this. If one of your teams goes 2-0 or 0-2, things change pretty quick in a non-division top to bottom season like this.
Oh yeah, I think that's the fun. I mean, if there is a positive of not playing our full season this year and getting what we're getting, it is literally like week to week. You have to pay attention. You have to be engaged if you're trying to compete in the league. You have to keep an eye on the scores. Keep an eye on that midweek change has been very strategic this year, but also very confusing the first couple of weeks. Like, it threw me, like, not being able to pick up person at a certain time, that kind of stuff finally is starting to figure itself out. But the shift, I think it wasn't this week, but it may have been last week. The shift on Thursday won the second game for me. Like, making that change on Thursday is what actually pushed the game through to go 2-0 in that second week. And I mean, who knows, if I go 1-1 the first 2 weeks. Am I making the moves I made this week and last week to get better, to keep making a push? If Zach does the same thing, he doesn't start 6-0, he starts 3-3. Is he making moves for Mike Trout? The end of next week, 0-2 Zach or 0-2 Justin could completely regret the moves they made because it could push them far enough down the standings that now they're fighting for their life to stay in. It is just, it's so fast this year that these doubleheaders are really like, it's fun because it changes week to week. Next week we could have somebody new in the top 4, and we're talking, will they stay in the top 4? So it's fun. I'm enjoying it. For what it is, for what we're getting, I am enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is an interesting year, but I love the fact of all the strategic stuff you get to do during the week. I love the fact that, I mean, I think it's something that you heavily have to think about for the future, just because I think it kind of solves some of the injury stuff. I honestly believe it keeps people more engaged. I think it rewards people that are really on top of it. And that's what this league to me is about, is being rewarded for putting in the time and doing that. And I think that we all do that. And the ones that do it the most are really going to be able to take advantage of it. And that's, I mean, I hope that it continues for me from that perspective. But also the thing that happens is, I mean, I've gone 6-0 in 3 weeks. And if you have, I mean, a couple injuries, couple bad weeks here, one bad week and you're back to 6-2, and then something happens and it can go really quickly. So, I mean, I think that our game this week is going to be fun just because it's fun to have those ones that are, when you're going up against the other top guys. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good week for sure.
Yeah, clearly 2020 being the year that it is, this is a season that all of us are going to be managing more than we ever have because we have double headers, but mainly because we have the new midweek lineup change more than anything. There's a lot of strategy going on midweek and even at the beginning of the week as you plan out how things might go. And so, and the reward and the risk is even greater because you're playing double headers every week as we tried to squeeze in 14 games in 7 weeks before our playoffs. And so 2020, it's either been really kind to you or you hate it right now if you're at the bottom of these standings. But before we go, as we wrap things up here in the last minute and a half, Justin, I need you to respond to this comment from Blake Mitchellmore. He says, you're acting like you didn't flip your S when you didn't get Trout.
I have totally admitted that I was not happy, and I said a few choice words, and I came down. I talked to my spiritual leader, Travis, and he brought me back down to earth. He gave me a few verses to meditate on and to read on, and I read on them. They were actually from the baseball rule book that he wrote, the Constitution. It wasn't from the actual Bible. It was the baseball Constitution for this league. And we're over it. We're back. We're all friends.
How about this one? Blake's now claiming he's going to pull a Brady Luke the rest of the year. I'm not really sure what that means. Can you decipher that for us?
It means he's going to disengage like he does every year about midway through once his team's mathematically eliminated.
This is the guy that traded me his farm system because he was all in for 2020.
And now I'm not going there. Fake news, he says. Fake news.
Hold on. Let's be fair.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Let's close on one quick thing. Did you buy Blake? And we're just gonna. Did you buy Blake a gift this week, like you claimed to? You said you were gonna go buy him a gift on your way home from church. Did you buy him the Rambo Trump flag for his new apartment that he's getting?
Did you see that? Did you see that thing, Travis?
Yeah. The women for Trump were all over, man.
They were all over the place. He was sending us Marco Polos all week as he drove by. So I'm excited. Blake, big week. He's getting his new apartment. He's getting his new Trump flag. It's go time.
It's go time to check out for 2020. Unless you're in it, just about everybody else is still involved in this thing. Harry Doyle Fantasy Baseball. 3 weeks are in the books. Week 4 is upon us. Will things change or will the rich get richer? For Justin Deering, Zach Hawley, I'm Travis Akins. So long, everybody.
I'm so sweaty.